So here you're able to see right now.
Yes.
Yeah. So if the order type is JTA, we are going to the notify the initiator, and for other cases we have to go to notify the different person. Okay. So now let me try to create a mail option. Okay. So here I want to write sales document. So I build both body and the subject. Okay, and click OK. So if we don't give control, it is giving note the workflow definition almost. Okay, so I think it's giving go to error list. Okay, let me. Okay, error will be displayed here in the DOM. So enter, it is asking a mail text. We already wrote the mail text, right? Mail content, mail body. No errors. No errors. Okay, so here I have not created any task. So let's create one normal task and assign the task to here. Okay, so even I checked the standard tasks which are available. Actually, each task is having their one specific text related to the some subject. So if we want to have a mail, and we can create our own task and assign the content here. So now I'm going to create one standard task for sending the mail content. Okay, for that, actually if you look at here, I have maintained the subject here, right? So but these also we no need to maintain. So if we maintain it in the standard task, if we give the task here, it will be auto copied to your mail body. Okay, so let's create one standard task. Okay, so standard task. Okay, so in the mail content, I want to display sales document and see this number. So I'm going to create AWF underscore mail send. So already exists. So mail one container. So I'm going to create a sales document, two variables. VBAK, VBLN, and it is an import parameter. Sales document type. VBAK, AU, ART, and it is also an import parameter. So here we no need to write any code, just we need to create the task, and already a standard gave methods like self item, and if we take F4, we have send task description. Okay, so send, it will send the description as a mail, and you can take it as a background. Now, but we have to define our mail content. That also we can define here like this. Okay, here you can add your mail content. Else, see here you can add your mail content here. Else you can add the content directly in the workflow. Okay, so anything is okay. Okay, so when, which cases we need to add here, and in which cases we need to add in the workflow, that I will tell you after completion of this task. Okay, so now come here and save this task. And also release this one. Okay, so this is the task I created. Now go to workflow template. Alright. Yeah, let me go to change mode. I hope I already logged in. Yeah. So what I will do is here TS I assign the mail. Now I am entering the time. Okay. Well, so we can take the container variable directly from here. And also if we take binding, Okay, so here initiator is mapped to address string and sales document and type. Okay, so these are empty we are passing, so delete these entries. And check, you can also check your binding syntax here. If there are any errors, it will show in the down. So there are no errors, I hope. This is also second binding part, the down one. Okay, click OK. Okay, so now click OK. Okay, so now one step got created. So in the similar way, we can create another mail content here. Okay, so now save it, and I will first we will check for this case, like when the order type is this one, it should go to the initiator. Okay, so activate it. So workflow got activated. Okay, so now I'm going to we have to trigger the event so that workflow will start. So for this, SWUE, and our event is demo01 and event created, and object we have to take the sales order which is of type JTA. So go to table VBAK and take the order type JTA. Okay, so take this one, anything is fine. 13327. Okay, go to create event, object key, and create the event. So then workflow should start. Okay, now we want to see the workflows which are created. So go to transaction SWI1 and check for the today's date which are triggered. So if you know the any of the selection criteria, you can try to check with that directly. So anyhow, here the less. Okay, if you look at here, all these are our tasks. Look at here itself I am telling. If you look at, we have 3 steps, right? One is the workflow task I have created. Second is one background step I have created. After that there is a condition, if condition. After that mail sending is there. So there are around 4 steps, out of which the standard tasks which are created, for those it will create again a work item, work item ID. It will generate one work item ID for the main workflow, and for each task also system will generate one ID number. All these we can see in the SWI1 transaction. If we know directly this ID, directly you can come to SWI1 and give the work item ID and you can execute. Look at here, this is our workflow, right? Control C. Identification. Here if you give this work item ID, you can see only my work item. Even then, if it is one work item, if you go to the log, it will show our whole workflow here. Okay, so this one is a separate task. Even suppose I am going back and I am deleting this one and I am taking this one. Even suppose if I take this task and I will take this ID, it is a subtask inside of my workflow, right? So even if I give and if I go for the log, see, this is only a task inside my whole workflow. If I select this one and if I go for the log, you can see the complete workflow log. Okay, So this is the one thing we need to remember. Okay. So the work item, if you look at here now, our workflow got started. Okay. It went to get order details and it sent mail and workflow got finished. If you look at here in this case, there is no waiting for initiator action. Here just we are, only thing is we are notifying the user with the information. But here we are not waiting for user action. So that is the reason why workflow got finished without waiting for any action. Okay, so these are the some scenarios. In the last example, we have seen we have created a dialog work item. So if there is a dialog work item, so that means we should wait for user action. User should, it will go to user inbox, and if he click on that work item, then only the workflow will be finished. Okay, so how many work items, how many foreground means dialog task we can create is, yesterday we have seen one, that is activity with a dialog option, and the second one we have is user decision step. In these two cases, the work item will wait at user inbox. In the rest of the cases, it will proceed to the further. Okay, so remember this thing. But some cases also we can wait, we can keep the workflow to wait, that we will see later. As of current scenario, we will wait for the user action only if we send a dialog work item or a dialog task, or if we send a usage decision. Okay, so now we have seen the workflow got triggered and mail sent. So now we will go and see whether we received mail and or not. Okay, now SW SP business workplace, or you can click this one. Now if you look at here our inbox, we have one unread document. Look at here, it is not a workflow item to take the action. It is only a mail that this order got created. If you look at here, the order type also came in my description of my mail. Okay, so is it clear? Let me explain here in the design on the task. Here two scenarios. If you look at here, within the task I have not defined any description. The description I have mentioned here. So this is called, in which scenario we have to maintain this text? In the task level. Because I have not maintained at task level, I have maintained at workflow level. Okay, so when we have to maintain the description at task level, because if you look at here, if we maintain here, suppose I have a huge text. Okay, I want to use the same text in different places. Okay, in those scenarios we have to create a standard task and just use, because here I have maintained a simple text, right? But in future we might need to maintain a huge number of lines. So I cannot, and also I want to use the same content at different places. So then I should not maintain here. So that is the reason why we have to maintain inside the task and use wherever you want, so that whenever you use this task, the mail content will be copied automatically to this place. Why they have not provided means, to reuse the body we have to define the task. So for your each mail content you need to have a separate task so that you can reuse the text. Okay, why? Because in some scenarios, suppose take a reminder mail. For reminding, the mail content is almost the same for all reminders. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to create a standard task. Inside this we have to maintain the description, and in all workflows you can use the same template for remindings. Okay, so that is the reason why when I'm looking for the standard task also, there is a description and that will copied automatically. Okay, so definitely whenever you want to send a mail, with your mail body you have to create a task. Okay, so whatever you maintain here will be copied to task, or whatever you maintained in the task, it will be copied to your mail body and subject. Notify the another person. This is also same. But before going to this part, we will see now, before going to the workflow change again, we'll have some transaction codes and the logs, how we can see. Okay, now we have seen SWI1. Okay, SWI1, and this is the work item. Okay. Okay, so if you know the work item ID or anything, if you identified and if you want to analyze, so now the important part is looking the workflow log, because whenever the workflow is started, it is a separate instance and which will run in a separate background processing. In a it will run in workflow runtime environment. So you cannot debug or see how the data is flowing and all. Only option we have here is we need to look into workflow log and what is the information is coming. Because in the program, if we try to debug a ABAP program, if you want to know how the data is flowing from one internal table to one variable, or how, if you want to know all this information, you have to run the program and you can see only during the runtime the variable values, right? But whereas the workflow is a different, because it will, the runtime is not a foreground like to see and debug. It will run in a separate runtime environment. Only thing we can do is we can see those variables in the workflow log. It will be stored, because you know classes, right? Class and object, right? See here, the object is nothing but an instance to the class, right? Similarly, here also our workflow template is like a class. You remember, like it's a template, it's a type of workflow. Whenever we trigger a workflow, for one sales order I triggered, for another user he trigger another sales order. So system will generate a separate workflow instance for each object. Suppose I created 10 sales orders today. So I will have 10 workflow instances. I can say this is one workflow instance. Okay, if you create another sales order, that is, it will create another workflow instance. Okay, remember this terminology, it's a separate workflow instance for each object, and all the data, runtime data, will be stored for this object in a log. This is the log we can see. Okay, each workflow instance will have its own log, and there we can see that instance information about like variables, container elements, or the flow of the workflow, and everything we can see this in this workflow instance in a workflow log. It is clear? Whenever the user is triggering a workflow, means it will create a separate instance for each sales order or each purchase order. A separate workflow instance will be created, and we can analyze that instance by using the workflow log. So we can analyze the workflow log in the same T code SWI1, and look at here, select the workflow or task which we want to analyze, and this is the button where we can see the workflow log. Okay, see, and also this is the first screen where the main tasks will be displayed here, workflow and task, because I have a condition, if condition step, right, but that will not show here, and in the first screen it will show the my main workflow and the task, and at what time, if you look at here, at what time the workflow got triggered, that I can see. And also if I have a dialog step and if it is waiting at a particular person, yesterday I showed, right, here the agent button will be activated. If you click here, you can see at which person or at whom the work item is waiting. That also you can see here. Okay, so this is the first screen, and also you can see this button, list with technical details. Okay, so now I'm clicking this one. So we'll have all the information in this technical details. Yeah, okay. So this is, if you look at here, it is a workflow log, and if you look at here, so these are the steps which are processed during the workflow, and this transaction is, this log is very important during the support phase. Okay, now the first step is our get order details. Okay, and the next step is sales order, because we have a condition and in one condition it will go here. So with this it ends, right? Now you can see here at what time the work item got created. So first it is created here, within the same time it will go, within the same time it is processed. So there is no waiting time, so that's why reason why all will be with the same time, because there is no waiting part and all the things will be finished in a fraction of time. Okay, because here only one action and immediate action is sending the mail, so that is the reason why there is no difference. If you look at a big workflow, you can find the difference of time, and this is the one case. And look at here, this is coming in the tree type of view, right? Like a tree structure within the thing. If you created anything, it will show like a tree. Here we have a view type, how you want to view these steps in the workflow log. This can be controlled by using this one. I can select chronological view. Chronological view means it will display all in a single line. You don't know which one will be called when and when it is ending. It depends on your analysis. You want to choose which view you want to see. If you look at this tree view, you know in which how it is going by using the tree. Okay, by using chronological view you can directly see. In some cases, why we will go for the chronological view na? Sometimes the users will say, I am getting a work item like this, where I can see. Because we don't know which task it is. If you go to the tree view, you have to extend each and every one, and you have to check where this is coming. If you see a big workflows, you have to open all these things like one by one. In that case, you have to go to directly chronological view, and directly here, if you go further, you will get a scroll here. Just see the descriptions where it is and scroll down. That is the case where mostly we will use the chronological view. Tree view is just to see the flow wise. Yeah. By using tree, you can see the flow wise. This is the one thing we can use the view types in the to see the steps inside the workflow by using the view type. Okay, it's clear this part?
Yes.
Yeah. Now if I want to see a diagram, how the flow is happened in the flow diagram, and this is the place where we can see graphical workflow log. If you click this one, you can see in the graph. So it came here, it went to notify initiator and workflow got finished. So that means here the order type is JTE, so it went to notify user. So this is called graphical workflow log. Now again go to log, technical details. Now if I want to see my container values, and also if you see in the down, we can find different tabs. Okay, so the first one is details. The details will give you the work item ID. As I told, each one will be created with a ID. Okay, so the work item, this is, now I click this one, so it is showing the work item ID of my workflow. If you look at this ID, this some of the information is also shown here. You can see work item ID. Okay, most of this information is showing here also. And what is my workflow task number, workflow definition, this also you can see here. Okay, so this is nothing but the basic information about your workflow. If I click task, so it is showing the work item ID of the task, and it is showing the task number, and also you can see it is of type background task. Okay, so this information we can see it in the details for each step. If I click this one, if you look at here, work item ID is not generated. That is the reason why we are also not able to see these conditions, because it's not a work item or anything, any action. It's only a condition in the workflow. So that is the reason why the work item ID and all are not available for these conditions. Okay. Now if you look at the inside the task, for this you will have the same again, the details. Okay, so next thing is, so we have seen the details, which contains the basic information about the task or workflow, when it is created and what is the task ID and what is the type of the task, and all we can see in the details. Now if we go to the step history, it will give the information about the actions performed on this workflow. Okay, if you look at it, is, see, this will be created at what time. Okay, that will show workflow started, work item processing completed. For each action which is performed on the task will be shown in the step history information about the step. Look at here, who performed the action, event received here with our ID. Okay, it is started by background workflow runtime environment. Only event we have triggered, but it was started by workflow runtime environment. Now if you go to order details, if you look at here, execution started automatically, background work item created, so this is created means work item ID. Okay, with the actual agent, and then it is completed and result processing. If suppose if I get any error inside the work item order details, okay, so those information also it will show here in the history, that what is the error, that also it will show in the history. Okay, so it is the kind of a log for that particular task. What are the things happened inside the task or errors or the information about this one, it will be shown here. Sometimes now what type of issues we will get, I send a dialog work item to a particular agent. Okay, in some scenarios we might need to send the work item to a group of persons who are responsible. Suppose I have 5 approvers for my purchase organization, anyone can approve. Okay, so what I will do, I will send the work item to all 5 approvers. Okay, out of 5, one guy took the action. Okay, and the workflow finished. Sometimes one guy will come and say, I didn't approve, and who is approved this one? He want to know the information. If you look at here, you can see if it is a dialogue, as it is a background, it is executed by last agent. But if it is a dialogue work item, here it will show you the person who took the action. So that you can say who approved the dialogue work item. That also you can get the information from step history. Yeah, I will repeat this step history again. See, I have a scenario where I created a purchase order. Okay, so the release part, I have 3 persons who can release. So I created a dialog work item here, sales document created, please approve. Like this, I created a work item and I sent work item to 3 persons. Out of which, so here it will show whenever the work item got created, workflow will got stuck and workflow will wait. So by that time we'll have only two things. If you look at the log before approving by the approval, if you look at this log, here you will have execution started, work item created successfully. Only those two actions only will be logged in the history. Okay. Out of 3, one guy took the action. He approved the the work item. Next, it will show you work item processed successfully, and it will show the agent as the person who approved. And it will update the log again after approving work item process completed. And it will be again with a workflow user. But we can see who approved in the step history. We have another case, deadlines. Okay, so as of now we have not defined any deadlines. If you define any deadline for a particular task, so those deadlines also you can see in the log. Okay, so the deadline means I have sent a mail for approval to one person. Okay, and also I defined a deadline after 2 days. I want to remind him if still the work item is pending. If like that, I defined a deadline for reminding. So those deadline type, date, time and all also will be visible in the deadline tab. Okay, so the next is task description. It will contain the subject, means description of your task. And also if you look at the message, it will basically return the messages which are written by your business object method. Whatever you return, suppose if I raise any exception in the my method, so that also will be visible in the last message. Okay, that will show here. Okay, next, the important thing is container. So container, you already know that is the place where we have the information about our variables, internal tables and all. Look at here, for each and every action, wherever we have a task or values, you can see it here in the container. So now I clicked on my workflow. So this container is my workflow container. If you look at here, sales document, number and the type. Okay, see now we are seeing after completion of the workflow. Okay, so that is the reason why the document type is also updated. But if you remember, we are updated only sales document from our business object to workflow, right? So generally if you look at in the beginning stage, if suppose if there is any dialog work item before this get order details, by the time we will have only the sales document. Okay, but when this document type is updated, when the get order details is executed, the document type is updated. Now if you look at here, this container, when I click this task, and when I see the container, this is the container of the task which I defined, this one. Okay, so this container, but this one is the workflow container. It's not scrolling. Yeah. Okay, don't confuse with the containers here. Each one will have their own containers, and the data showing is for when that method is executed, that it will show. If you look at here, in this task, what I see, this document I passed from this workflow, this workflow container I passed to this task container, right? Sales document I passed. Next, what I did, inside the method of this method, I fetched document type, so my container got updated to this task, and also I binded that to workflow. So that is the reason why my workflow container is also having the same value like ZTA. Okay. So for this task, again I mapped my workflow values, because in the order details I got and I mapped to workflow container. So this I have used while sending the mail. If you look at mail container also, here also we have mapped these two. And look at the address string. Address string is our workflow initiator, right? So if you look at this only, we have mapped. Let me open. We can see the information in the log. Okay, and now look at the order type here, because if you look at here, you know, by seeing the template you know what is this condition, but if you want to see what is the thing it happened here, you can see outcome, step condition, result, true. That means whatever the condition you have mentioned inside this condition step, that result it will show here whether it is true or false. Okay, if you look at here, true, that means the order type which we have selected is true. That means it is a ZTA. So in this way you can analyze your workflow log. So the main thing is container, and you have to see each container and you have to see what are the variables and values are coming. Based on that you can communicate to the user, or you can know what is the action to be taken. Is it clear? And also here we can change the settings. Okay, now I am changing, see here, user view I put, you can say technical view. So different views are there, but I prefer the current view which we saw. If we change these views, look at, go back and come again, so the display of this log will be changed like different. Okay, now let me check, because it will show another way. Let me show you classical user view. Classical technical view. Okay, so this is a one way to check, and here also you'll have the step in the history which we saw, that will show is here like this. And if you want to see the container here, show container, so this you have to click and you can see here. So this is just a different way of display the workflow log, and also it will be controlled by using here the settings. Okay. Settings, personal workflow settings. So if we change this one, it will show in a different way, but we'll have all the information in both the cases. But whatever is the convenient for you, you can uh, set that options and you can look at the logs. Okay, and this is the one which we saw now. Here it will show all these things in the down as a separate tabs. Okay, so this is the one more thing. So any doubt this part? It's clear?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So now we have seen the workflow log and how we can check the log and what are the things available inside the workflow log. Now let me tell you one more transaction called event. So now, as of now, generally what now, this trace will be deactivated in the production server generally. Why? Because, okay, first of all, what is this meant by this event trace? Okay, so we have created a custom event inside my business object, right? So I know what is the event will be triggered in my custom program. But if we take any standard transaction, we don't know what are the events getting triggered, whether they will trigger or not. So that we don't know. So what general step what we will do when we are going to develop any standard or workflow, if you want to check, first what we have to do is, first we need to know what are the events triggered when I execute a standard transaction. Okay, what it mean? I'm creating a sales order. Okay, it should trigger a created event for some business object. I don't know what it is. Okay, suppose even if you know, if you go to SWO1 and you can see sales order related business object, what is sales order related business object, and you can see their event created. But actually we don't know whether that is triggering when you are saving the sales order or not. So before you completely implementing the same business object, first you should know whether that is triggering in the standard transaction or not. For that, what you have to do, you have to trace the transaction. You see, first you activate the trace, okay, then create the sales order, come back to this transaction and see what are the events got triggered. Okay, if you look at here, there is no trace here as of now. Okay, look at, if you go to event trace and go to edit, go to, if you see here, we have switch event trace on and off. Okay, if I click this one, event trace is switched on. Okay, so it's already on, and also I have triggered an event from SWUE. Already I triggered one event, right, for my custom business object. But then why it is not showing in my report? In my SWL, the output it should show, right? It's already activated, so it should show. Why it is not activated? If you look at here, there is an option called restrictions for trace. Here I restricted here only on 4th date, but today is 6th. Now what I will do is, I will change it to 6 and only for today activate the trace. Like that I will put. Okay. So I am activating restricting for the trace for today's date. Save it and click OK, and event trace switched on. Okay, now come back, and now again I'm executing like creating a sales order, whatever it may be. I will do the transaction, and I'm giving the key, and I'm writing create event. So I have triggered one event. Okay, display trace for triggering events. Okay, this also I put. Now if you look at here, and when I execute this one, okay, to date should be wait until date and time. If I execute, look at here, it is showing for this business object the event created is triggered, and also the type of the workflow, what is the receiver. Okay, so this we can see. If I double click this one, if you want, you can also get the work item ID object key. Copy this one, SWI1, and you can directly see the log here. Select this one and go to log. It was slow. Yeah, select this one and go to log, like to see the normal log. Okay, so we need the work item. So this is the, now 1 second. Okay, if we go to the, as I told one scenario, see, when you create a sales order, suppose there is no workflow also, at least it will show you the business object and the event trigger, and with receiver as empty when you activate the trace. So you can use this business object method, and you can start your workflow by using that standard business object and the event. You can create a workflow for that business object event, and you can proceed for the implementation, because you know that it is triggering when, as per your process, when you want to create a workflow. Okay, so that is the scenario 1 when we go for the trace log. And I have another scenario. Okay, in the support they will say like, when I execute this transaction, workflow should send mail. User will say he don't know what is the workflow, and we are in support, we don't know what other team they implemented, but I want to see. They will say just they know only thing, one thing, that after executing this transaction, when I save this one, my workflow should send a mail to my inbox, like that users will say, but I have not received. What is the reason? That is the issue you will get. So then you don't know what is the workflow template. You don't know anything. The only thing you know the information is what is the action which the user is doing. What is the transaction? You will click save. That only you know. Then in that case, what you will do? You will activate the trace and you execute your transaction and save it. Then you come to know in the trace what is the business object event. If suppose there are 2 to 3 events, all the 3 you can see, 3 workflows you can see, and you can identify the relevant one. You also know the work item ID which is getting triggered, and you can see the workflow template also. Then you can go and analyze what is the template defined and how the work items will go to user inbox, and all that are your further analysis. Okay, it's clear. So when we go for event trace, because it is very important, okay, when you go for a support or when you want to start a new workflow. Okay, I will repeat again. Whenever you want to develop a new workflow for any transaction, first you need to, if it is a standard, if it is a custom, you don't need to worry about the trace, because it's your custom business object and it's your custom transaction. You want to trigger the workflow, so no issue. you want to go for a standard transaction, you need to know what are the events triggered when he save the action or release any order, any whatever it may be. You want to know the events. In that case, we will activate the trace. The second case is it's already implemented and you want to know what are the events triggered and what is the workflow map. Again, also you can activate the trace and identify the workflows which are designed for that process. Yeah, and also we have an option to delete trace. Okay, sometimes you might see I activated trace but I don't see. That is the reason some people, what it will do now, sometimes there might be some jobs they will do the trace frequently because it will perform the system. If we look at, if we take a big client, they are doing, each user perform a huge number of transactions. For each and every one, every transaction it will generate events. If you activate the trace and if you forgot, sometimes based on the number of transactions your system also may go down. Okay, so that because system has to trace even your all actions, all transactions also. Okay, so be aware when you are activating the trace in the production system, because if you activate and if you forgot, system is trying to trace each and every user action, every transaction which user is performing, all will be recorded in this transaction. So be careful while when you are activating the trace in production. So you activate and immediately deactivate and delete after you are identifying the business object or the workflow. Okay, it is very important. So we saw today we have designed mail sending and we have gone through workflow log and also we gone through event trace SWEL. Okay, so now we will go through a simple one more step in workflow template. Okay, uh, we'll design a small one more step inside the workflow. Okay, I'm going to okay. Okay, let's say 38. Sorry, that event trigger through program. That also actually that function model which we have used is absolute. So we have another function model that we need to use. I will tell you that also later. One second. SW. Okay, SW order. Okay. See now I'm going to use one of the step, that is a container element, container operation. Let me tell. Look at here, I have a step called container operation. So what is this container operation is like, see the name itself, it is saying a container operation. That means we are going to do some operations like mathematical or assignments, any operation on a container element. Okay, so now what I will do is, as I told here, I want to send a separate mail to another responsible person. I want to hard code this responsible person here. So what I will do, first I want to define, I'll go to my workflow and go to container. Previously we sent to the initiator, now I want to send to a separate user. Okay, so what I will do is create we can give any name like approver. Okay, so here it is like a normal user, right? So you can type like the name where we can have, see, it is also should be WF initiator, right? So if you want to see the type, we can see here in the, let me close, just to refer the type of the fields. WF SYSTINITIATO or workflow initiator. Okay, and I'm taking this one as type export. Oh, I need to remove this one. Import export. Okay, so I created a workflow initiator. Why? Because it's making this one, because it is also the same char 4, so it is mapping to this one, but both are same. Okay, but don't be surprised this one. Okay, so now approver. 1 second. It is structure above dictionary type. Okay, so directly it is referring data element. Okay, so now I created a container element, and this, sorry, saved or not. Okay, approver is there. Go to workflow builder. So now go to container operation. So here my variable is approver. I am modifying the container element. Okay, so after this I want to do the same thing. Okay, create, send mail. Here the content is same, so just I need to use this task. Okay, so the content copy, but here the person whom we want to send is the approver. Okay, so now I changed the approver and I have assigned the approver in the container element, container operation. Now I want to send this approver, and also in the mail sending binding, you look at by default, see this approver is mapped to here, and remove these auto binded elements. Okay, click OK, save it, activate, save it. Now go to FWUE and object key, sorry, demo01, and object key is like this one 54. This one, I hope this is not JTA. Okay, create event SWI1. Okay, now 54AA, this was triggered, and if you see, also if you go to container, now here if you look at approver main workflow task, I said US ECC USR 49. Now log into that user. So this work item should be there. Look at here, it came to the other user. Okay, it's clear what I did in the, just I did the container operation for the other types. There I assigned a particular user and I sent to the mail to the particular user. Okay.